Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Anthony with Edge on Regenerative Medicine Show. This is the place where we get the best of the best doctors, therapists, wellness people to help you take your health to another level. We all know that if our health is not intact and everything's not synapsing, we know that, that's a bad day or even a bad month. And some people, they're so scared to go to see therapists or even doctors at that point. We sometimes put a value on things instead of realizing that ourselves, we should be putting a higher value in making sure that we're being treated and being taken care of. Today, I have a special guest with us, and hopefully I'll say it correctly. I think there's a little Italian in this. Therapist Jim Valeri, is that correct? Valeri?
It's Jim Valeri, but that's okay.
Valeri, Jim Valeri. Oh man, okay.
Yeah. It's okay. I get that all the time. It's like, oh, it's Valeri, right? It's like, some of my grandfather ingrained in us. He's like, no, it's Valeri. So
you're all Valeri. It's a Valeri.
It's a Valeri. Hey, over here.
Yeah. So. But the great thing is you can, if you would like to get more information, you can go to New Hope Counseling. Counselingonline.com, New Hope Counselingonline.com. Today, we're going to be talking about neurofeedback. Yeah. Why is neurofeedback so important to the world today? And again, I just want to say thank you so much, Jim, for connecting with us today. And it's an honor to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me on, Mark. I appreciate it. It's just great to have an opportunity to be able to talk about something that has really impacted the lives of my clients and me and my family's lives personally. In fact, I wouldn't even be talking about this right now if it didn't impact them so greatly. If somebody told me 6 years ago I'd be treating mental health problems with video games and YouTube videos, I probably would have told them they were crazy. Wow. And it might be a good time to book an appointment with me because we have to talk about some things. So.
So tell us about your story. How did you get into neurofeedback and why? Why neurofeedback?
So when my son was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism, and we kind of just figured he had some issues, but we didn't think it was that severe. Mm-hmm. And we brought him to preschool, and they're like, "You really need to get him tested because he's not functioning properly. There's something wrong here." So we got him tested. Turns out he was diagnosed with autism, and we were kind of, okay, like this is going to be a challenge. And he was really having a tough time. I mean, fortunately we got him in school, it was helpful and whatever, but he was still having a tough time there. He was, violent. He was pushing kids and kicking kids and running off on teachers. And we'd take him to the grocery store and he'd throw himself on the floor and flip out. And it was just bad news all around.
Right.
And my wife was kind of at her wit's end. And so we ended up talking to a colleague of mine who said, well, hey, I'm doing this thing and it should help your son's problem. And we're like, well, we'll try anything at this point. And so we brought him in, got him treated a few times, and some things started happening. He had a vocabulary of about 200 words, which is really low for kids. He just couldn't communicate well. And then my wife put him to bed one night and he got up out of bed and came over and started to have like a bit more of an in-depth conversation with her, which was kind of shocking to her. It's like, hey, he got out of bed and started using words I've never heard him use before.
Wow.
And so as a result, we started seeing this is good. He's making some progress here. And so we decided to go all in. We treated him for a couple months, and he went from being this really violent kid to getting Student of the Month for his behavior at school within a 2 months time frame from being treated. Yeah, wow. Yeah. So he ended up making this big turnaround. Teachers were like, "What's going on here?" It's like, well, we're treating him with neurofeedback. I might as well have said, "Yeah, we're taking him to the planet Mars," because they had no idea what. And up until a few months ago, we had no idea what it was either. And so that was it. I was sold. I was like, all right, that's it. I went, got trained. My wife got trained. We did a 45-hour training.
What were you doing before that?
Oh, I've been a licensed mental health counselor for, well, I've been doing therapy for 20 years, but I've been licensed for that, little under that. So,
okay.
so yeah. So up until that point, I've just been doing like counseling with people. That was really all I did.
So you were kind of already almost kind of in that realm a little bit. You just went deeper. Sorry to cut you off. I wanted to just kind of, yeah.
Fine by me. Yeah, no, and so that was basically kind of this sort of next step into this. And because I was a mental health counselor, they were like, okay, yes, we can totally like train you and, you know, get you what we need and all that stuff.
Right.
So it was fantastic. So then I just started treating people in, it was 2018, started treating clients, and I've been treating them at this point for the last 5 years, helping people. And I've treated other kids with autism, and that's a really wonderful thing to see. When the parents come in and they're saying things like, well, my kid won't sleep, and they can't sleep either as a result because they have to constantly try and calm this kid down, or, you know, he has a lack of empathy, or has these outbursts, and all these kids have this big turnaround, and all of a sudden the parents' lives change and they're happier as a result because their kids are doing better. And so it's this really fantastic thing to watch, to see happen. So I've seen that with autism, kids who have ADHD. I've worked with those as well. Parents who want to treat their ADHD but don't want to put their kids on medication. Right. I don't quite frankly blame them. So there's that too. And of course, anxiety is another big one. People who have difficulty sleeping because they're too nervous or anxious. So initially, right out of the gate, we're trying to treat sleep, because sleep is a big part of mental health in and of itself. If you're not sleeping properly, your body's not regenerating, you're not healing from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental and psychological standpoint. They've done studies on this. Your mental health is just going to be out the window. It's not going to be very good. And so we treat sleep right out of the gate, and that tends to help a lot of the other mental health issues. And so subsequently, we'll treat that, and then we'll treat the emotional anxiety. So one site for neurofeedback treats physical anxiety, and another site treats emotional anxiety. So that's the bulk of what I do, generally speaking.
So how does it look like? You know, so this happened with your son. How many years ago, or was this?
This was back 2017, late 2017. We started treating.
How is he now?
It would be defined sort of as like a pervasive developmental disorder. He's an extrovert. He talks to people and wants to make friends, and he's got a lot to say. And when talking, you know, people will talk to him and they'll kind of be like, oh, he's a kid, and then he's kind of a little off. Like there's just something about him, and he's not understanding social nuance. So there's some parts that are not perfect. But then again, I only treat him maybe once every couple of weeks now. I mean, for a while it was, you know, once every month. I typically, I mean, and we're only doing that because we have it. You know, if we were paying for it, we'd probably get him a tune-up maybe once every 6 months or something like that. But for the most part, he's at a place now where he can tell me, Dad, I need to be treated. Like he'll tell me as well. Yeah, and wow. Be like, wow. Dad, he's like, I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling like I'm angry and stressed out, and I think I need to be treated. Yeah.
So he can communicate very well. So yeah, I like that. What are some of the biggest things from 1 to 10 from where he was years ago? You know, 10 being high. Where would you say was he on a scale from 10 not doing well, but 1 being no? You know what I mean? Like 1 being well, 10 not doing well.
I would put him at least, you know, I like to, you know, play a little conservative, but I put him somewhere around 9, 8 or 9, easily. You know, is he perfect? No. But then again, there's just something, I kind of look at it like there's just some things neurofeedback can treat and some things neurofeedback can't treat. You know, like if people are experiencing a tremendous amount of nerve pain, for example, like I can't neurofeedback that out of them. So there's some components I can't use neurofeedback to teach him social nuance. I can't use neurofeedback to teach him how to communicate with people, how to know if someone wants to be your friend or not. You know, how to ask a girl out on a date. Like there's certain things that it just can't do. Right.
I can help you. I can help you.
Right. So that's kind of where, you know, I mean, obviously it's, you know, there's the benefits that far outweigh any potential disadvantages.
So with neurofeedback, you know, we know that at least, you know, our viewers, you know, we know that neurofeedback can help out with ADD or autism, addiction, anxiety, chronic stress, insomnia, memory loss, dementia. strokes, seizures, fibromyalgia. What are other main things that you've noticed that you've also seen that neuro has also helped people with?
I've seen it help some people with depression, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Sugar cravings is a big one. There's a specific site that sort of reduces sugar cravings. So if you're somebody who loves carbs, who loves sugar, for whatever reason, this site kind of balances that out. And it's just like, I've had people be like, wow, I don't feel like I need to go and eat desserts and stuff like that. It's strange, but it's one of those things I've seen. Depressed mood's another one, mostly because we're trying, working with some prefrontal cortex stuff, good decision making, thinking processes, that kind of thing. Also with depression, there's usually, again, some sleep components. So if someone's sleeping better, generally speaking, their depression is going to improve as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's parts of that. I mean, other stuff I could think of, I haven't extensively tested anything like schizophrenia or anything like that.
How about brain fog?
Sure. Yeah, like, but memory.
What about brain fog? As you know, we got hit with COVID. A lot of people have had the brain fog where they have the word there and they're just not able to articulate and to move into flow within their speaking.
Yeah, I've had one or two clients say that, but that's usually that's not up to be honest. I haven't experienced a lot of clients who've talked about brain fog.
Oh, okay. And what would you say the things that you've experienced the most with it's funny, we're saying neurofeedback, or we're saying neurobiofeedback. Are those two the same, or are they?
Yes, neurofeedback is biofeedback for the brain.
Okay, just want to make sure, because I'm sure people are like, neurobio. It's a transformer. I'm playing.
No, I hear you. And ironically, the system that I use, the software, is also used with a biofeedback company. So it's a biofeedback company that literally uses the exact same like games and software and what have you as they would use for the neurofeedback. So it's sort of this, it's not necessarily translatable, but it's sort of like the same platform has been used for both.
What would you say? I noticed that you're saying it's almost like software that you're utilizing. So what does this look like? Is it like something you put on your head? Do they connect your fingers?
So it's electrodes. Like there are electrodes that are attached, and it's like 5 electrodes. You usually put one sort of at the center for the head, and then usually 2 behind the ears, and then the last 2 are at various points. So for example, this one back here is physical calming. That's usually where we start. That's where we optimize clients, because for the most part, when it comes to neurofeedback, every brain is like a radio station. You're trying to tune into that radio station so that you get the right frequency, and that frequency is that client's best optimal frequency to be treated. So two electrodes will be here, and basically we'll kind of go around the brain with 2 electrodes and treat them, treat each of those sites individually for a period of time. And then depending on what the client's reporting, like let's say there's whatever the problem is that they're facing, whether it is sleep, whether it is ADHD or what have you, focused attention, then we'll kind of tweak it. We'll tweak the treatment plan to the specific areas of the brain. Like for example, with ADHD, there's 2 different types. On one hand, you might have somebody who has ADHD and they're aggressive. Okay, so then we would definitely treat like right side prefrontal cortex. But on the other hand, if they're not aggressive, we wouldn't really waste our time with that per se. We want to get them right over to left side prefrontal cortex. So we start with the right back, and then we could potentially move over, or we can go interhemispheric and then make our way over to left prefrontal cortex. And really that's the goal, because that there is where the emotional anxiety is treated. And like I've treated myself with it, and the best way I can describe it is, you've ever driven a new car. Like you drive your car and then you're test driving a new car. So you go and it's brand new, it's got a new car smell, but it's still you driving. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like sort of like, wow, I'm a lot calmer. My emotion, I kind of look at it this way, like I can see the emotions coming, and I can prepare myself for how I'm going to respond to those emotions. So it almost kind of slows down that instantaneous response.
Wow, you gave me when you were saying that, you kind of remember The Matrix. I don't know if you watched. I'm a movie buff,
Yeah, I love The Matrix.
Remember The Matrix when he's being shot and he's like real. It's almost like he was able to slow it down so he can. But there's a lot to that. you're
Yeah.
slowing it down so you can react to the right, making the right decisions. And I love, I'm a car guy. I love cars. I'm actually looking at, Lord willing, purchasing a 67 Mustang or a 66. I just love Mustangs, your car guy, and I look at it like this. Our vehicles is our body, our temple. This is our vehicle. What we're putting in, how we're treating it is how it's going to run. So in a way, I feel like what you're saying is, this is good for everybody, because the brains, a brain are brains, but everyone functions differently. We've got to make sure that it's functioning in perfectness. But I look at it like this. When we do this and we utilize neurofeedback, it's basically changing out the spark plugs. That's the kind of way I'm looking at it in my mind. I'm trying to think, unless if you have another way of looking at it, you're changing out the spark plugs, because everyone needs an oil change. Your vehicle, our bodies are the same way.
Yeah, you're making it so the brain runs more efficient, and it sort of irons out that dysregulation. It's basically something that over time, because our brains are designed to learn.
Correct.
So neurofeedback will sort of teach your brain and show your brain, no, wait a second, things are a little off here. Here's something a little bit more regulated, and it rewards the neural oscillation. When that change in neural oscillation takes place, it rewards it over and over and over again. So the brain's like, oh, this is good. Yes, absolutely. I'm totally going to be rewarded for this, positive change in my brain. It's kind of like every time you fixed your hair or shaved, you got a candy. It's kind of like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm fixing something. Right. Oh, hey, thanks. So I'm going to do it over and over again to get that positive reward. It's classical conditioning for the brain, in essence.
Why do you think neurofeedback is not very well known?
Well, there's a number of reasons. Right, it's kind of like my colleague who sort of got us started on this once said. She's like, it's kind of like the Wild West of neurofeedback right now. There's no sort of streamlined system. There's a bunch of them out there, and they're all vying to be the system of record.
Yep.
So as a result, you've got one system that's doing this, and you can treat yourself from home. You got another system that's like, no, you have to come into the office and be treated and be supervised by a clinician. So there's a number of different systems out there. There's even people trying to do open source neurofeedback. They're like whole discussion boards of people trying to figure out how to be able to treat themselves with neurofeedback without having to pay all the money and like building their own like neurofeedback box and stuff. Their own EEG.
I love it.
So but it's one of those things where really people there's a price point that's difficult for it, and a lot of people want something that their hospital or their doctor is going to prescribe, and that's covered by their insurance. And so unfortunately with neurofeedback, number one, it's not covered by insurance because there is no streamlined methodology of delivery platform. Number two, if you were going to cover it with insurance, what would you cover? Would you cover the EEG machines and medical devices? Is it medical equipment? Is it the exfoliating gel that we have to use? Is it the paste that we have to use to attach the electrodes to the head? So there's a lot. Is it just the service? So there's a lot of different things around insurances covering it, to which I can understand why they would be a little bit hesitant to try and even take on a can of worms like that. So I think once neurofeedback kind of gets a little bit more streamlined and the process becomes more streamlined and people kind of see it more as something that is a potential medication alternative, as long as that's an okay thing in the medical profession, then it'll all start to become more streamlined. But until then, it's becoming something that's a little more it's sort of on the cutting edge, if you will. It's sort of new. It's new technology, but it's
kind of secret society. I always kind of feel like it's a kind of undercover, because and what a lot of people don't realize, and I like to say this, is that there's all these certain things that I'll go to my doctor for, right. And I'll be the first to say it. I don't really trust I call it the big box pharma. Too many people have died. And so I would rather do something like neurofeedback. And from my experience, I don't even think this is even in the list of neurofeedback, but from my experience, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with degenerative glaucoma, like the highest form of being
Oh,
blind.
wow.
And so my life changed. The doctor came to me. She said, you know, I wish you would have seen me earlier. You're probably not going to be seen for the rest of your life. So I was like, wow, okay, I didn't see that coming. I just thought I wore the contacts for whatever, just my eyes weren't that bad. And so, they said, yeah, it comes to you. Sometimes it's like a snake, it just bites you and next thing you have. And I was like, wow, I wish you would have known about this. But so I got the glaucoma. The lady was like, well, hey, I go, well, what's the good news? I'm always finding the good news. She said, I can do this. I'm the #1 glaucoma specialist in Portland, Oregon. I said, awesome. I go, when can you do it? She goes, tomorrow. It's like, wow, I didn't realize it was that bad. My eyes were just pure red. I didn't know something was going on. And so my eye pressure was out of whack. They cut my eyes open, both of them. I had 4 major surgeries within 30 days. Very scary. But where I'm going with this is that I'm able to see right now 2020 with my glasses. With them out, whatever. But what's interesting, they told me, they said your eyes, you have cells in your eyes. When a cell dies, it can no longer grow back to healthy. And that's what I said. I said, And I started using a neurofeedback system for my eyes.
No way.
Yes,
Wow.
I'm not joking. Every time I go to the doctors, they're like, I don't know really know how to, your eyes are getting better. I go, excuse me? They're like, yeah, your eyes are getting better. And I go, but you told me that once they die, they don't come back. He goes, yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it. And they just stop talking. The point is, God created our bodies to heal. And he uses certain systems. Sometimes prayer, sometimes a system like you have, but the system that you have is a system that I have. And I've noticed that, again, under doctor performance, I'm not over here just putting something on my body and, oh, it's working. It doesn't work that way, people. What I'm letting you know is seek a physician. Please. You have people going on these boards and, oh, they're building their own machines. No, if you're going to get a good pizza, you're going to go to Italy and grab a good pizza with a glass of Pinot. Okay, you don't go to the dentist for pizza. It's like that with doctors. It's like that with people that have the education, and so, but my eyes are actually getting better. And, so I do a lot of exercises with my eyes. I used to be a tennis pro, so now I'm getting back into that.
All right.
And so my eye is probably my weakest, but what I'm doing is I'm doing exercises with the ball, trying to catch it. It's hard to see, but I'm working it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And the other side of that component is that the neurofeedback will help your performance as well. It'll increase that as well. So that's another sort of side thing that I haven't quite tapped into yet. I'm not really quite sure what, I'm still just sort of hitting the mental health angle from my perspective, but my understanding, like one guy I was working with, he was trying to get sleep too, because his autistic son was keeping him up. And he sort of said, I was treating him. And he's like, funny thing. He's like, I went golfing the other day. I hit the best golf game of my life after this.
No way.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, hey,
that's what I'm talking about.
So, and they've done research on this with archers and stuff like that, with accuracy for neurofeedback and the like. So, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, you have to that's kind of why I do things here. When people say, why can't I do it at home? It's like, well, no, you need me here to kind of make sure that everything is working properly, because if you don't know what to look for, and it's not even that complicated. I'm just making sure the electrodes stay connected to your head so I don't dysregulate. Like, that's really the most of it. It's just making sure that the frequency's right, making sure that the electrodes are staying attached, and that we're following a treatment plan specifically designed for you, for what it is that you're looking to get help for. So, but it's possible to give yourself a headache. I mean, if you're not careful, it's and one that sticks around for a while, it's bad.
How long does an average session take?
So I usually do 45-minute sessions, and the sessions usually go for about, I treat the client for about half an hour. Mm-hmm. The other 15 minutes, I take the time to attach the electrodes to the client, change electrodes. Like, you talked about cars. Once I'm treating the entire brain, it's like I'm doing NASCAR pit stops with the electrodes and kind of bounce them around a little bit. yeah, it's I try to treat the client for about half an hour, and so I'm usually breaking up the time into that. And generally speaking, that does the job. It's sort of like every site that we treat, 5-6 minutes minimum, and that's all it takes for each side of the brain, as long as it's done consistently on a weekly or twice a week basis. But so
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And something I want to bring up, and I know that you can add to this. So this is just out to everybody out there in internet land. So we have a thing called brain mapping. So we put this, it's like a cap over your head. And what's interesting is when you put this cap over your head, the doctor or the physician, whoever is doing that, they can look on the computer screen and they can see where the inflammation is. Just trying to break it down to third grade. They can see where the inflammation is, where things are not working. Maybe where things should be popping and they're not. They can say, oh, they can look at the computer connected to the brainwaves and say, oh, you're struggling a lot with stress. Interesting. And then they'll start telling you, oh, yes, my dog just died, whatever the situation. Or they'll say, you know what, we're going to need to do this. So they're able to tell by looking at the computer screen with the brain mapping what you're dealing with before you even say it. Would you say it's something like that, or
well,
you can expound on that?
Yeah, that's QEEG, and that's not part of the system that I use. The system that I use is based on client self-report, much like psychiatry. So people come in, they say, I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety, I'm experiencing depression, I'm having difficulty sleeping. The psychiatrist will listen to you, say, okay, based on what you're telling me, I'm going to prescribe you this medication, come back to me in a month and tell me how it's going. And so client self-report has been, sort of the gold standard for a lot of things, because pain is subjective. So not that, look, I'm not here to dog QEEG. QEEG's, is good. QEEG kind of goes on the imagery itself. So you start out with a QEEG image of the brain, and they sort of take a snapshot. You get treated for neurofeedback, and then they take a snapshot after the treatment to kind of see how things are going. And it's sort of an objective way of making a determination about the brain's health and the brain's improvement. So, this
but
is
you do QEEG though, right?
I don't. I do. The method that I use is client self-report. So it's a subjective.
Okay. So that's the difference. Okay.
That's the difference, right?
Okay.
Hence
so I'm still learning. So I'm like, I know they have QEEG. They have, right.
Yeah. I will say that QEEG is becoming more of, how we talked about, different places are sort of competing as to what's the standard.
I see what you're saying.
QEEG is becoming more of the standard. So a lot more people are asking for QEEG. A lot more people know what it is. And so I'm eventually going to have to adapt to that, I believe, because it is, in fact, the company the system that I use, their new NeuroAmp, their new EEG machine is set up to be able to do QEEG. So it seems like they're going to be shifting gears as well.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, man. I'm learning a lot here today. So we talked a little bit about autism. We talked a little bit about sleep, a little bit about ADHD. So if you guys are struggling, you have anybody, family members, or even yourself, autism, sleep, ADHD, there's anything that I am missing. I know that there's a lot of information with neurofeedback. Like I said, hey, my eyes, I'm noticing that my eyes are starting to see, I'm starting to see better. Is there, what would you say the main people that you see in the clinic that you see that people are actually kind of coming in? If you were to say the top 3 things that you notice, would it be stress number 1? Would it be fatigue number 2? Or what would you say?
I would say stress is one of the top ones for sure. A lot of people are anxious, can't sleep. Usually sleep and stress are kind of at the top. ADHD is usually under that. So it's a lot of the kids that I see are usually ADHD clients. They can't focus, they're having difficulty maintaining attention in school, they can't do their homework, that kind of thing. So, we're trying to work with them on that. And then autism is usually kind of trailing there. I'll get, 2 or 3 clients that are dealing with autism spectrum disorder and the negative sort of side effects of that. And so as a result, that's usually kind of the,
Mhm.
the staging I'm running into. I have had people come in for depression and what have you, and that kind of thing. But really the main ones are stress and attention, honestly. Like those are the big ones out here anyway.
So I also noticed, just looking at your website, that you do Christian counseling. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So what does it look like, and what type of people would you say that you notice that you're seeing for counseling
So
needs?
no, for sure. So I've been a Christian since I was 5. I don't make any bones with anybody about that. I have people who ask me, so what's this thing about Christian counseling? Like, are you gonna throw a Bible at me? You're gonna be slapping me upside the head with the Bible? And I'm like, well, no. If you don't want Christian counseling, that's fine. We'll just do regular counseling. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? And it's like, well, Christian counseling takes a biblical perspective, or can, if the client so chooses. The client wants that, and if they don't, that's fine. But mostly, it's sort of a way for people who are of faith, who are Christian, and I've even had some Catholic clients come in as well. They want somebody who respects their faith, and
That's awesome.
yeah. So I mean, it's a way for them to be able to express themselves. And I've worked with other therapists who think that people who have religious faith have some kind of, like, that in and of itself is a mental illness. So, and that's kind of not really respectful to the people who have that religious faith. I mean, would you say that to somebody else who had a different religious faith that you maybe agreed with? So ultimately, it's sort of a way to be able to kind of have that safe environment for them to talk about it. And a lot of times I'll have, couples or families or what have you, people coming in, and they're trying to just work out their problems. Like most of I would say, Christian counseling clients are probably about 40% of my caseload. The other 60% is just average everyday folks just coming in and trying to work through their issues, whether it be their marriage or raising children or whatever it is, So
Mhm.
it's not something that's like, oh my gosh, you're not a Christian, I can't possibly work with you, or that kind of. It's
No,
not even like that at
exactly.
all. It's just more along the lines of, I've got some standards, and that's really it. And if I've worked with people who are like, wow, like they find out later that I'm a Christian, and they're like, oh well,
They're
wow,
like,
you're a Christian.
something's just totally different, but I don't know. I just like being around you.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, wow, you're a
You're all,
Christian.
it's the Holy Spirit. It's pretty cool. You want to know more
Yeah. So
information?
yeah, and it's just like, well, yeah, and it's like, well, but you're not bothered by anything I'm telling you about. It's all this other stuff. And I'm just like, well, no, because you're going through things, and I'm here to
Yeah.
listen, and that's part of my job. It's
And that's when you say, a matter of fact, I was going to say, when are you going to give me the hard stuff?
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like I eat Christian cookies and I got a Christian cigar and a Christian house. I'm playing.
I got a Christian car.
Right. Yeah. I got some Christian baby wipes. I'm just joking. But
Yeah.
it's amazing though, some certain people. But that's awesome. How long have you been doing neurofeedback in total, as in
But
years?
5 years total. I've been treating clients for 5 years.
Oh,
So,
wow.
man.
That's
So,
awesome. And then you're the main area that you're in, the main city that you're in.
yeah, I'm in Framingham, Massachusetts,
You're
which became a city like last year.
hey, you're having a hard time saying it. I'm like,
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
yeah. Really?
I've
What's
had
the
people say,
population?
are you in Farmingham? I've had that one before. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of farms here. Come on and visit. Go ahead, take a look.
What's the population there?
Oh gosh, it's in the thousands, but
Oh, okay.
their biggest claim to fame was they were the biggest town in America,
Really?
and they decided they wanted to become a city. And hey, God bless them, whatever. It is what it is. I haven't noticed much of a change, really. So it is what it is. It's Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
We got excited. We got a bowling alley down the street. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. There's not many bowling alleys left up here. Actually, the COVID closed like 90% of them down. It's really good.
We need to go back to drive-through theaters, bro. I have to tell you. I mean, come on. That's the best. I get in my car, stay in my car. I put 10 kids in the back trunk so I don't get extra charge, the old school style, and watch 3 movies for the price of 1.
Oh yeah, and we used to have a ton of them around here. They're all closed down. Every single one of them.
You know what's weird? You know what's weird though is where I live, they're popular now.
No kidding.
Because when the whole COVID thing, what they started to do, so they started to have shows before the movie, like actual bands play.
Oh, no kidding.
And then people stay in their cars.
That would make sense. That would be cool.
I was like, yeah, I mean, that's 6 feet, right? I mean, back, when it first started, and, and then you can just do old school style, just go grab your popcorn and whatever. If you really want to do it old school, have it to where they come to your car, and you just order on your pad.
Yeah, and roller skates and everything, right? So, well, the big downside with Massachusetts, though, is that we have, we have cold weather. And so it's kind of like owning an ice cream shop.
Welcome to Portland. Yeah. I mean,
right.
If I see the sun, I'm like, it's like, I'm not joking. It's like, oh my God, you are the sun. Yes. It's a trip,
Oh, for sure.
I know it's popular over here is that when the sun when the sun is out over here is when the sun comes out, everybody just steps out of their house and just looks like this. I'm not joking. I wish I could make this up.
Seriously?
And then they go back, they look at each other and they wave and they go back in.
It's weird. So basically it's just like Massachusetts where people don't talk to each other.
Yeah, you're right. And then the fun part is when you talk to somebody, they look at you, they look behind you, they look like, are you talking to me?
Right.
And you don't want to be too happy over here, because if you're too happy, they think you want something from them.
Right.
So I got to really tone it down, especially if I go visiting a church. You got to really tone it down.
Yeah.
You got to be kind of like grunge looking, melancholy.
That's right.
You remember the whole grunge era was like all, yeah.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
I remember when it happened, and it was really weird.
No, it was. I remember when I remember I was in high school and I heard Nirvana for the first time. And I was like, I don't know what to think about it. I just felt a lot of anger. And and that ended quickly though. That grunge thing, it was like what, from like 92, possibly 96.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 years. And the hilarious part of that, the funniest thing that I ever saw out of the grunge era was like hair bands trying to match the grunge sound.
Oh my God. It was so, I felt bad. You know what? It's funny. I was listening because
so bad.
In the 80s was so popular, and it was, they had a good run. And I remember Poison, one of the lead singers in Guns N' Roses, they're like, dude, we hated grunge. They're like, as soon as we heard it, we're like, there goes our money.
That's it. It's all gone.
They knew it, so it's like, Sticks, bye-bye. It was like, and now the funny part about it is the music industry, everyone's trying to now, they want those old bands back, like Styx, Eagles, the Cars, it's the older cats. Now they're the new basically Gen Xers, but.
Well, there's nothing new under the sun, like when you've run out of things to write.
Well, the new music, maybe I'm getting old, man. I'm like, the music.
It's the first indicator.
This is, I know, huh? It is. I love you, man. It's the first indicator. I'm like, they don't play it like they used to, but let me tell you something. There's a lot of validity to, I have to go back to classic rock, the Eagles and everything, because I'm like, you know what? They actually played their instruments. It was really cool.
Yes.
So nowadays you can be a rock star, put a little patch on your voice, make you sound like somebody you're not, and you just put it online and make a whole bunch of money.
I mean, who needs Milli Vanilli when you can make your voice sound whatever?
Hey, they got in trouble, man. I did buy Milli Vanilli. I'm not gonna lie. I know about Girl, You Know It's True. Blame It on the Rain. Yes, I've got it memorized.
Yep.
But everybody does it now.
Pretty much.
Anywho, on another, that's a whole nother show. But which is far from neurofeedback, but it's okay. Hey, after listening to some of the music nowadays, you do need neurofeedback, just to let you all know. But anyways, I'm bad. So thank you so much, Jim, for being on the show today. I pray the best for your business, and that I love what you do. I'm pro Jim with what you're doing with neuro and focusing on helping as many people as you can. My friends, make sure you share this video. Why? Because one video can change one person's life. It really can. So you're going to want to make sure you go to newhopecounselingonline.com and, ask for Jim. And again, thank you so much, Jim, for being here on the show. This was awesome.
Hey, thanks again, Mark. I appreciate you having me on. Very cool talking to you. Do it again
Oh
sometime.
yeah. Oh, we will totally. Hopefully, maybe we'll go a little bit deeper in the music. But I appreciate you.
Cool. All right.
All right. That